Report with Mad Max, Adam Maxwell from the Rising Liberty Group, and Professor Red Pill from Straight Talk. So tonight we're going to talk about the UK conscription and it's crazy stuff. But Adam's got the scoop on it because it's like something that just came out. So tell me what you told me to the audience, and we'll go from there, I guess.
Well, I got approached by one of my subscribers in the Liberty Rising group who said, listen, the UK government, the head of MI6, they've came out saying, we're going to conscript you soon. You've got to be ready to go to war. We're on the cusp of it. We're in the space between war and peace. And he said, listen, I don't know if it's crazy or if it's something that I should actually consider like a contingency for. Because these people are crazy, right? I think they do it. It doesn't make sense, but they're crazy. They do it. What do you think? And he gave me a contingency plan, and I said, it is crazy. They're crazy. You're not crazy for saying this is messed up, but yeah, like this is clearly the narrative that they're going with because, I mean, it's been. We're now coming to the end of 2025. This decade so far, the 20s, have been pretty tumultuous. Started off with the coup, going into a great war in Europe, and this great war has been led by the West, a coalition war, not a proxy, a coalition war against Russia to defeat them, and we the West, are losing, and they can't let it go. And they also can't, and this is the problem with government, they can't accept that they're wrong. And so they have to double down and triple down. And it's like, guys, this is not a good strategy. You're losing. The economic war we're waging is causing all these problems. Governments in Europe are failing as a result of your failed policies. Everyone's getting poorer as a result. What's the point of all this? And their only policy position is, how do we keep this going? How do we double and triple down? And so, what they do is, this is how they manage the empire, the West, the global American empire. It's not done with 5D chess pieces. It's not done with something here, small there, all the backroom deals. These do go on. But how you manage the empire is you have these big announcements by, for example, the head of MI6, it's a woman for the first time ever, her first public appearance, she says, you got to be ready to go to war. A month ago, Macron said the same thing. We, the French, have to be ready for our sons and daughters to go and die to defeat Russia. And we're just thinking, what are you talking about? Why? How? What is the point of any of this? But this is clearly the narrative, and this is the narrative. This is that engine that the empire is running on right now. We are at war. Why? These are logical questions to an irrational, evil apparatus of power and wealth. They're getting rich. You and I are getting poorer. Life is getting worse for lots of people. Hundreds of thousands of people's lives have been destroyed. Millions. This is something we talk about constantly. They don't care. They're making a fortune off it. And then we're looking at trends. We're looking at economics. We see all these changes that are, the trends, the rationality that we're seeing empirically, and the underlying logic there all comes back to this war, this great war against Russia, the economic war against Russia, all of this. And that's what we're diving in today on this 17th of December, 2025.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I pick up here. Let me go ahead and pick up the article here. This is one of the articles that we found from The Guardian, and this is, I guess, Britain caught in space between peace and war, says new head of MI6. So, who is this chick exactly? This woman? Like you talked about her a little bit before we started. You can see it, right?
I can't see it. I don't know if it's up on Rumble. I can't see it on this studio.
Hold on a second. Let me present it. Here it is.
There we are. I've never heard of her before. People have said this is her first appearance. There were questions: is this even a real person or is she AI? To me, I think she looks like a reptile. I don't know. Something about her doesn't look right.
Yeah,
Who
it looks
is
totally AI. Yeah.
something doesn't look right. Never seen her before. This is the head of MI6. Now, Britain, you got MI5 and MI6. MI5 is internal, it's like the FBI. MI6 is the CIA. So you've got basically the head of the CIA coming out and saying, we are in the space between peace and war. This comes 9 months ago. The former head of MI6 said, we might have to look into conscription. And this is how they signal to the rest of the empire, the rest of the country, the state apparatus, the think tanks, the corporations, the government, the pension funds, the markets, the asset managers. They're looking at this and saying, this is the official propaganda. This is the direction we're heading toward. Now, do we think they're going to go through with it? I don't think so. But the way that they're pushing things.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. It's yeah. I mean it's just the same old, same old. But the main thing is like, can you hear me? Are we clear? Am I clear?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I mean the situation is that with the MIC, the military industrial complex, I was talking about this before with the silver price. I was predicting by the end of 2025 we would see $50 silver. I also said we'd have gold go over 4,000, and I said that crypto Bitcoin would hit 100,000 by fall, by the end of the year. All of those happened. The main thing with silver, the reason why I was predicting a $50 per ounce or plus silver, is because of the AI bubble that's about to burst. That actually we've seen signs of it already earlier in the year, continually through the year, massive layoffs, all kinds of stuff going on with that. Everything that we've been saying, everything we've been predicting, we've been seeing it. So the ripples are there. We're on the cusp of a .com type bubble with AI and technology. Yeah, but the main thing is the reason why silver is so high right now is not because banks are collecting, because banks don't really care about silver. They collect gold. The central banks and governments, they're more concerned with gold than they are with with silver. Silver's an industrial metal. It's used in solar panels. It's used batteries, different types of technology, microchips, whatever. It's a conductive metal, just like gold and copper. But the main thing that with silver is that it's used primarily, like I said, in AI and chips and processors and military applications. So the fact that silver, and I said this before, I said if silver hits $50 a barrel, or sorry, not $50 a barrel, if it's $50 an ounce, it's a good indication that there's a military industrial buildup at a global scale. So we go back to like World War II, pre-World War II, and countries were doing what? They were like central banks within these countries were building up their gold reserves. That was the first thing. That was the first sign. Second thing is that they were trying to take control of strategic locations. That was the oil fields, like Japan tried to take the oil in Indonesia or the South Pacific. America, South America, so on and so forth. Germany tried to do a deal with Russia and was trying to take control of oil throughout Europe and North Africa. That's also strategy. We're seeing that right now. Where's he have all of his cruisers right now? Where are they at? They're outside of Venezuela. He said I'm going in to take them out. And that's a strategic move for the sole purpose of making sure that they have control of oil wells in case if there is a major conflict. You're correct.
Yeah, off the coast of Venezuela. It's got the greatest armada ever assembled right off the coast. And Maduro, he's saying, we're going to build our own AI chips, and they're going to be better than NVIDIA.
Yeah.
Because this is like AI, we talk about AI bubble. We talk about the government investment cycles where they invest $1 trillion to OpenAI, who invest $1 trillion to Nvidia, who invest $1 trillion to Palantir, and it goes all the way around. But AI, as much as it is a consumer application, it's also a military application. Why is Tesla $2 trillion? Why is Tesla so expensive? Why is Elon Musk the richest man alive? Was it 600, $800 billion? Just $1 trillion compensation package? Because the Tesla, they're not a car company. They're an AI company applied to real complex situations. Cars are the obvious application there. But it's going to be the Tesla AI systems that are being used in American drones, in American war. It's their intelligence. And that is why Tesla is an absolute fortune. Because Musk is a brilliant corporate fascist welfare king. This is how he's made his fortune. Props to him. So we're looking at these strategic resources: oil, yes; gold, yes; AI, yes. This is where we're going. Everything's coming around. You say that empirically, we're looking around, we're seeing all these factors. That sense data is always supercharged with rational interpretation. It's not random. There is an underlying logic, these trends, how the system functions, and that shows up those empirical observation points. So we're seeing absolutely this push towards conflict, war. Why? I don't know what. I mean, we can explain why. The governments, the ruling class, is in their interest. It's a great business. It's a racket. It's a great business. They've made a fortune, and they can always justify it. But it's not good. Not only is it not good for you or me or the enemy, it's not even like it's not good for you as an American. It's not good for an ordinary European. It's not good for the subjects of these empires that they're spending so much money on the military, on aggressive wars, the manufacture of aggressive wars. And some of these things are just not captured in the data. They say, oh, we're spending $1 trillion on our military. Okay, but you're also spending billions and billions investing in foreign aid, investing in these economic strategic things, which, okay, I'm all for investment in economic strategic, but they're being used not for production per se, more for destruction. And what they're doing is then they're imposing all this economic war and destroying the economies of Europe, for example. America doesn't care about Europe. I see some people say, "Oh, America's so great."
Well, Trump's even said that. Trump's even said he doesn't care about Europe.
They came out with a bombshell document. So Germany is in a process of deindustrialization. It doesn't help Germany. It doesn't help Europe. It helps America, though, because America are the ones selling Germany the oil. Germany's been in a process of deindustrialization since 2018, when they first halted Nord Stream 2 with Russia. And then America and Britain and two of the Scandinavian countries blew it up, which is an act of industrial mass-scale sabotage, destroying the cheap subsidized energy link on the European continent. And now all that energy, all that gas is going to China, it's moving towards India, it's going towards Iran, whereas Europe, prices are going up, it's becoming less competitive, it's becoming more reliant on America, less reliant on their neighbor next door, Russia. And all the Americans are doing, because America, look, they invaded Europe in 1944 and they never left. And that, we've been under their control since then. And this war against Russia is also a war against Ukraine. It's why they don't care that they're losing, because every loss, this is the thing, they own the left hand and the right hand. Every loss by the Russians is good for the Americans because our enemy are suffering. Every loss by the Ukrainians is good for the Americans because the Ukrainians are Russians, they're our enemy. And they're killing Russians. So America doesn't care that Ukrainians are dying. In fact, they relish in it because they know that Ukrainians are naturally Russians. So they can't lose.
Ethnically they are. Like linguistically and ethnically, they are Russian,
Culturally,
somewhat. Yeah.
geographically. I mean, if I'm not a communist, I'm a very radical anarcho-capitalist. Go look at the anthem of the USSR. United forever in friendship and labor, our mighty republics will ever endure. The great Soviet Union will live through the ages, the dream of the people, their fortress secure. Scroll down, they say our leaders have led us, we've fought off the invaders, we fought for the future, destroyed the invaders, and brought to our homeland the laurels of fame. Long live our Soviet motherland, built by the people's mighty hand. Long live our people. What this American strategy since the end of the Cold War has been is let's try and carve off Ukraine from Russia. We do it. They started in the 50s. They started in the 70s and 90s. Let's say they started 2008. Let's say they had a massive success in 2014, and they've been pushing since, and then it escalated to 2022. They've now successfully cut off the breast of Russia. These are the same people, the same country. It's a civil war. It benefits America because their primary adversary, the Russian heartland, Moscow, Russians are dying, Ukrainians are dying, and to America, those are both Russians. And that's why they're happy about it, and they're making a fortune, and people are dying, and millions are suffering. And the land, this Ukraine, the breadbasket of Europe, it will be centuries before this territory recovers ecologically. I mean, have you seen what they're doing with the fiberglass drones? They're shooting off drones with fiber optic cables. There's been 60 kilometers of fiber optic cables all across the Ukraine. It's awesome. It's horrific. There's kilometers all over, like a massive spider web of glass in the farmlands, in the landmines out there, the explosions, the road. All of this suffers Russia, suffers Ukraine, suffers and Ukraine. Again, they're the same people, and this is what it's all about.
Yes, sir. I mean, like I said, the thing is from what I've been hearing, Russia's actually starting to see some economic impact from the conflict. I mean, they've been at war for over 4 or 5 years now. You look at the United States. The war started in 2003, the Iraqi-Afghanistan conflict. They had two war fronts. Russia's technically in that situation because they were in Syria and in Russia and in Ukraine at the same time. They technically were in a similar type of scenario, not to scale, but Ukraine is roughly it's quite. You could probably say it's probably similar in size when you put both Afghanistan and Iraq together. It's roughly the size of Texas, so it's a very large landmass. But of course, the front line is eastern Ukraine. I mean, Belarus all the way around Russia. So it's a very long battlefield. It's very long, and it's probably one of the longest battlefields since World War II. I guess they said. Even it's bigger than Korea. Actually, the third parallel, it's larger than that. So understand the scale of what's going on. So Russia's in a very, 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 very expensive, very long, treacherous war with Ukraine or with NATO de facto. So it's going to take a heavy toll eventually over time, just like Saudi with the Yemenis conflict. I was in Saudi at the time during that conflict. The Iraq war was dying down at the time. I was in both the north. Now, I was never in the south, but I was in the north and I was in the east part because I worked in the oil and mining sectors in Saudi with training. And I mean, you could see that the salaries kept going down. Financial means from the state was starting to dwindle because of the cost of this Yemenis conflict. So it's the same with Russia and Ukraine. Both Europe and both Russia are both suffering as a result of this. They're starting to cut aid to other countries, predominantly Georgia. Obviously, Trump with U.S. aid has pretty much cut Georgia at this point. A lot of NGOs, a lot of American companies, not private companies, but non-government organizations have pretty much left the country. That was partially due to a legislative bill that we went over previously, the foreign agent bill. Partially that, but also basically the final nail in the coffin was when Trump was like, "I'm pulling USAID across the planet. I'm cutting the program," and he always does this. I actually had a friend that was working USAID the first time Trump was in office, and he was like, "Yeah, we're he's like, as soon as he got elected, he was like, yeah, we're worried, that basically he's going to cut our funding because he has said that he was going to do this before." He didn't really. I mean, he cut some of the budgets, some of the aid, but like for the most part, he kept USAID intact through his 4 years of presidency. I think because his hands were tied with Congress at the time. He didn't have a rubber stamp like he did with the red wave that we saw in the last election. Now he has complete and total control of the government. And I had said this before. I said when we were doing the live coverage, I was like, yeah, now Trump basically has a rubber stamp. This is going to be a little one-sided government. You're going to see the real Trump, the real mega movement, or the real mega situation. So, or policies rather. And that's what we're seeing. He's using the Reagan economics with the tariffs. He wouldn't be able to get that through this previous 4 years, but now he's able to do it. And I said, watch for the Trump tariffs, for the Reaganistic type Trump tariffs, then watch for he's going to start canceling administrative agencies because now he has the courts. He owns, he put these people in power strategically as if he was playing 6D chess or something. But I'm not going to give the guy credit in that regard. It's just that the planets and the solar system and everything aligned perfectly for him to be in this situation. I don't think it was actually planned. I think it just happened to fall into place. And like I said, if anything, you can thank the Democrats for doing that. Definitely thank the Democrats and the progressives and the socialists, and even in Europe as well, the liberals in Europe. The progressives in Europe. Sorry, liberal means conservative in Europe, but more or less that's what happened. And now you have a Trump presidency with a huge grassroots mega movement that literally just beck and call to the party. And the Democratic Party is basically fractured as a result of the last election. It's done. And now you're going to have 4 years of Trump, and you're going to have another 4 years of whoever comes after him. Because I don't think the Democrats are ever going to be able to even get any type of power control from here on. Because you can see it's basically a race to the bottom with that party. You're seeing it right now, the infighting and dismantling of it in California and New York. Even the elections he brought, we covered that with Madani, right? First thing he did, he invited him to the White House, and he said, "This is a good guy. I like him. He's a good guy. But he's a communist or socialist, perceived socialist." But
Madani, yes.
Yeah, it is what it is. I digress. What we got? What else you want to add in that?
Well, why does any of this war matter? Because this is taxation Money? Is correct. Taxation is theft. The warlords are in power. They're extorting the people. You live on a tax farm. You're a cattle goy on the tax farm. They're taking your money. They're spending it on war, enriching themselves, impoverishing everyone else, causing lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of suffering. And consequently, this is where, by the way, America's in 57 quadrillion debt. It's all from military spending. So says Dr. Michael, I'll figure it out. I quote him quite often on this. He's behind super imperialism. They're printing the money for these wars, for Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, Ukraine. This is where all the trillions are going. This is why you can't have free healthcare. This is why you can't have nice things. Because the government is taking your money, stealing it, spending it, manufacturing wars, killing innocent people, harming everything, and then they're selling you narratives that Putin is aggressive. He's going to go into the Baltics and go all the way to Poland and Berlin. And Putin's sitting there saying, stop attacking us. Why are you doing any of this? We could just trade. In fact, 20 years ago, I said to you, we can join NATO. We can join forces. We'll be unstoppable. There's no force that could take on Russia and America. To which the US president at the time, Clinton or Bush, said, literally laughed at him. So because there's no off switch, they only have one setting, and it's push the throttle. they can't get inflation under control. The biggest cause of inflation in Europe has been energy, the economic war against Russia, the energy crisis. Secondarily, the euro. The government in Bulgaria last week just fell. Part of it, a big part, was economics and the rise of the euro. And, there's all the narratives you can talk about as to why that occurred. But pain. The point is, America is suffering domestically a massive cost of living crisis. And this cost of living crisis is in America, is in Europe, is in Russia, everywhere. Everyone's suffering because they're creating war, they're causing conflict, chaos, pain, suffering. This is where we are. Excellent. Terrible for you, me, for everyone. So this article, you talked about the economic pains that Russia is experiencing. Russia is now, the central bank of Russia has begun its first recorded sales of physical golds from its reserves as part of the finance ministry's effort to fund the budget deficit. Gold is going record up. Now, there's two scenarios here. One, I would quite like more gold. It's going up. It's only trending up. I'd like more gold. Secondly, if you're Russia, say, gold's gone up a fortune. $350 billion of ours was stolen by the West, by Europe. They're trying to figure out how to steal more of it. Economically, we're hurting. We have to start selling our gold. Get that liquidity to fund the war effort. The benefit, though, is you're selling gold, which if you're Russia, gold, it's important, but you're selling off gold to fight the war, to capture the territory, win the people, win the existential war. It's a reasonable investment. It's expensive. They'd rather not be selling gold. And you'd rather be accumulating it. The central banks around the world are accumulating it. Who is selling this gold? Who is buying the gold? Sorry, maybe the Chinese are buying it off them. Maybe private investors are doing. They're selling it off because they don't have the liquidity, because their economy is suffering, because it's a war economy, because they're fighting this war. Everyone's suffering.
The point of order, the Saudis did the same thing during the Yemenis conflict. They started selling their gold reserves. As a result, they had an oil crisis during that time too. So the oil. You remember during the oil, that was before COVID. There was an oil crisis where the oil dipped to negative oil prices. This is the first time in the history of the oil trade, of the commodities trade of oil, and gold was kind of high at the time. So that's when I was brought in. I got laid off from the oil industry, and then they brought me back in to work in the mining because they started mining gold, copper, and phosphates. They sent me to this is where I went to the north of Saudi because this is where all their mines are. And I was working for Mahadin at the time. I was working for Aramco before as an expert trainer. And basically the goal was we need to start extracting gold as much resources as we can to sell in the open market because the oil is negative. And that's exactly what they did. And Russia's following suit because what does Russia have a lot of outside of oil, guys? Anyone? Bueller? They have a lot of gold. They have a lot of gold. They have a lot of minerals. They have a lot of other things.
They have primary resources.
Yeah. So, I mean, they don't really, they have, basically you have a country with unlimited resources that can sell anything to keep any type of campaign going and going. And that's the thing. Even Trump or the State Department, anyone's going to admit this, that yes, Russia has an unlimited amount of resources. They can fund wars forever if they needed to. The only thing that Russia does not have is human capital. That's what they lack. And that's why Putin went on the campaign of we need to bring in people from the West, blah, blah, blah. It was partially a propaganda technique, but also his reality is that he was trying to bring anybody he can. So now he's bringing in people from Africa. He's bringing people from India. And I'm hearing this firsthand from Russians that have came from Moscow. They're living in Tbilisi now that have told me that, yes, Moscow is now turning very brown, kind of like New York or like London. And he said there's people from all over coming to Moscow, replacing ethnic Russians because they're all at war. They're all in the mines. They're all here. They're extracting resources and they're leaving the country too. So
lots from Central Asia.
Correct.
Kazakhstan, former Soviet Union countries. Lots from there.
Correct.
Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. But
Koreans.
Everything you said.
A lot of Koreans, not North Koreans, but South Koreans are going in Russia as well to work.
The business meetings, international business meetings in Moscow, apparently filled with Chinese. Every conference filled with Chinese.
Yeah. Yes.
And maybe Indians now, and certainly they're saying we want another 1 million Indians brought in.
Yes.
And
they need labor. They need labor. That's what they need. They have industry. They need labor. So they're going to bring anywhere they can. Anybody willing to come to Russia to work, anyone's going to come. So the thing is that they have, from what I read recently, I'm sorry to cut you off, but what I've been reading recently and what I've been hearing here and watching on YouTube's and also social media is that the women are starting to complain in Russia that there's not enough men. But the thing is, there are men coming in. It's just that they're not Slavic men or European men. So they're complaining.
Russian men. Like you see interviews and they say, "What kind of man are you looking for?" They say, "I want a Russian man."
Yeah, or they'll settle for a European or Brit or American. But yeah, they're all gone. They're all abroad. They're working, or they're at war, or they've left the country because of the conscription issue that we're talking about right now. This invokes the question: what do you think will happen if there's conscription in Europe? Especially the fact that they can leave. UK Europeans have a passport that allows them to go anywhere in the world, just like Americans. And what do you think is going to happen if they start conscription? What do you think these people are going to do?
Where?
Europeans. If they start conscripting Europeans, what do you think the men in Europe are going to do? What's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to leave. They're going to come. Yeah. They're going to come to Tbilisi. They're going to go to Kazakhstan. They go to Thailand. They're going to go to America, mostly South America, because South America they can go no problem. It's very cheap to live, and they can find work as English teachers, whatever they need to do. Industry. A lot of them are skilled people, so they'll leave. And then Europe will be depopulated even further. So who are they going to replace them with? Well, what's Russia doing right now? They're replacing them with brown people. So that's what's going to happen in Europe. There are going to be more brown people coming in to replace the ethnic Europeans. This is what happens in war, guys. It happened in World War I, it happened in World War II, and it's going to happen again in World War III. I'm not saying World War III is going to be tomorrow, but I was saying, what did I say before? I said that
this is the
10 years
choreograph. Maybe. They're choreographing, positioning for World War III, positioning the empire. Everything's coming in line. The premise of this episode, my title is Rhetoric, Rations, Reality. The reality is Europe can't go to war against Russia. America can't go to war really against Russia. Everyone will lose. Everyone will die.
No, Europe can't have another war. Let's play it simply. They can't do it in 5 years. They can't do it in 10 years. But they say we're going to do it in 10 years. It's 10 years down the line. This is what they said with petrol cars. Yeah. In 2035, we're phasing out petrol cars. Well, now we see Germany is deindustrializing, and Merz, he can't say it's because we're waging economic war against Russia. He's saying it's because of Trump and his tariffs. It's like, okay, all right, buddy, whatever helps you sell the story. But then they're saying, okay, well, maybe we can't have only electric cars. Let's move it down the line. It's now 2040 or something. I'm making that up. The point is, they set the objective in 5-10 years down the line because they can push. Doesn't really matter. They don't have the cards. No, I mean,
but they're going to sell it. They're going to sell the rhetoric, sell the narrative. Try and scare you and push you and get you to support, be on side with it. Yeah, of course, these Russians, they launched an unprovoked, aggressive war against Ukraine. It was the worst thing since literally the Austrian painter. Putler is terrible, all these things. And, if you know anything that we've just said, you're like, none of that is true. It's our Western elites who are pushing for this, manufacturing it. This war could have been over within 2 weeks. Within 6 weeks, there was a signed peace deal, beginning of April 2022. Boris Johnson, on behalf of America, Brussels, Berlin, Paris, went there and said, Zelensky, if you sign this document, it will be the end of you, it will be the end of Ukraine, it will be the end of everything. We're done, we're washing your hands. You cannot sign this agreement, ratify it, rip it up. We're pushing for war. And that's the path we've been on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality. I flew into Germany and to Austria back in April, and just windmills to the eyes, to the horizon. I mean, there are windmills everywhere. I don't know how sustainable that is, but the thing is that's not how you industrialize windmills. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. I mean, it's just no. Coal is going to be the most efficient. Nuclear power,
which
but
Germany also,
they dismantled it. they dismantled all of their nuclear plants. They decommissioned them. So
it wouldn't be so bad if you've got cheap and let's be clear, the deal that the Europeans had on that Russian gas was very good the past 20 plus years. Very good. So you're no longer getting cheap just geographically as well and logistically, and a good deal. No longer getting that cheap subsidized energy, which is propping up European competitiveness. Instead, you're having German. I think we talked about this in the last or a couple episodes ago. They're taking the German chemical industries and moving it to China and America. This benefits America, benefits China, doesn't help Germany, but they can't do anything, and their leaders are so spineless that they can't even say the reason this is happening is because we have signed on to go to war against Russia, and things with the euro and whatnot, euro discompetitiveness. I think may the Western elites, may our rulers not be forgiven in our lifetimes. I hope it's over soon. It's finished in terms of that they cannot win. It's just, they're saying it's not just something. It's a tidal wave. The scale of momentum of the success on the battlefields that Russia is having right now. Who knows how long they can keep throwing bodies into the fight? I was listening to the Duran interview a Portuguese volunteer blogger who's been to Donbass 4 times now. He said the rate of casualties, which I understand, I can't see how it continues on till summer of next year. Now, we said by this time, by the end of fall 2025, the war will be basically over, whether or not they still have the bodies. Here we are. Another one of our predictions. We're now saying, and we've said it will continue for as long as they can continue to fund it and find the bodies for it. That's the main thing. And they're kidnapping. The videos you see, if you speak any Russian, pomoshte or something along those lines, help me. Pomoshte, help me. You see videos of 50-year-old men, 30-year-old men, cripples, being kidnapped off the streets all across Ukraine, sent off to the front lines, where who knows how long they have to survive. I don't know. The point is, the latest report I've heard, and this comes from the Duran, from this guy, Kyle, he's Portuguese, seemed pretty good. He said, I can't see it last until through the summer. Okay, that's going to be my next prediction. That's my cognition. I'm saying, okay, can they last out through the summer? Can we do one more year of this? If I'm a betting man, you put a gun to my head, okay, 1 year, okay. It may continue. They may find a way to escalate it. They're going to try and escalate it. This is why it's so dangerous. We want a security guarantee. Okay, well, what if Ukraine just puts in a false flag, so brings in America in? It's why these negotiations, they're so amateur. They don't work. They can't work. Nothing we're seeing is competent. And these people, they're really not stupid. They're just evil. They're not stupid. They're evil. They're making a fortune. You're suffering. And I just, at this point, the reason I'm quite passionate about this, I speak to quite a lot of people who think they're very smart intellectuals, and people tell me, oh, no, you're wrong about this, and America loves Europe and all this kind of stuff, and they're supporting the war. Someone said, these horrendous attacks which occurred this past week, the first day of Hanukkah in Sydney, Bondi Beach, the Brown University, I think there was one other atrocious, maybe it was in Syria, attacks against American servicemen. Someone said, this is clearly a coordinated act of war against America. We should go to war. And I said, what is an act of war? And he said, don't you know? I said, look, I'm an international lawyer. I've submitted a dozen papers before the United Nations. I know what is an act of war, but it's a vague term. It could mean anything. Trump says fentanyl. It's a weapon of mass destruction, and Venezuela pouring fentanyl. So, okay, is Venezuela possessing weapons of mass destruction because of the fentanyl, which is kind of coming from China, Canada into America, and then, Oh, what are you talking about? I don't support this. This seems like flagrant warmongering for the sake of the ruling class, and it's not going to help anyone. I don't want war. I don't support war. They support war because that's who's in charge of our societies. It's just very frustrating that so many people don't see it. Like what we're saying, it's there's no conspiracy here. It is a conspiracy, but it's just so blatant. any objective study, you're like, okay, well, I can see exactly what's going on. It's disgusting. The way that I do, a lot of my history, a lot of my analysis is that I take the null hypothesis, right, and then I look for the alternative hypothesis. So I say, I would let's say the start of this war, I said, I want to support Ukraine because it seems like the right thing to do, right? So I'm going to champion the cause of Ukraine, and I'm going to take the alternative hypothesis. What if Russia's correct? And I'm going to try and disprove that and try and champion the Ukrainian cause. And after like a week, I'm like, no, this is nonsense. Russia's clearly justified here. This is complete crap. So many people don't have those critical thinking skills. I think it's a failure of the education system. I think and it's not a failure of the system. It's by design of the system. This is the rape of the mind, the menticide. This is how you are programmed and brainwashed and propagandized. This is how the system works. This is how they coordinate. This is how they orchestrate. This is the choreography. The choreography is to war. Not because we're actually going to get to the war, hopefully, because they can't win. They don't have the cards. They don't have the capacity. There is a greater manufacturing of toys in Germany than in the great German military industry. And Germany have said, we're going to have the greatest military in Europe, except for Russia and maybe Turkey. They're producing more toys than weapons. It's derangement. It's insanity. It's ideological. That's what it is. They have their thesis, they have their ideology, and they construct everything. And it's all democracy is a regime of manufactured consent. So everything they do, everything they're doing is all about how it affects you and your psyche and the public opinion for whatever that matters, so that they don't have the mass and civil unrest that says, oh my goodness, my life is getting worse and worse and worse. Hopefully it's not for you. Hopefully you're doing better. But for a lot of people, ordinary Americans, cost of living, European cost of living, Russians, cost of living, everyone I speak to seems to say, I'm not doing so well. And it all comes down to these policies. That's the problem.
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree, 100%. It's a shit sandwich, and everybody's gonna have to take a bite. But like I said, I just continue to see hashtag collapse 2025 in this, and it's soon going to be hashtag collapse 2026 continues. But I mean, we're at the cusp. I mean, right now, crypto is down. It's been down. It's in a bear market. It's continuing to nosedive. And I don't know why, but I mean, I assume, like I said, they say crypto is kind of the canary in the coal mine for the stock market. And of course, the stock market's down it's down $147 right now, or points rather. It's been down 115 points for 5-day average, and right now, yeah, so it's slightly down, the Dow Jones, but it hit all-time highs, guys. It hit all-time highs, record highs. So we're seeing parallels with the 29 crash and what's going on now with this hashtag collapse 2025. So we'll see what happens. But generally, like what Gerald Slinte has said, once they lose, once the economy goes to shit, basically, they take it to war. I think that's very plausible. Right now, the U.S., out of all the countries right now, I think the U.S. actually has the capability to actually go into a full-scale conflict. But how long could they sustain that with the current industrial capacity they have, especially with Europe, going to the Green New Deal bullcrap. They don't have the capacity to continue to make munitions and equipment. They would have to go to wartime economy. They would have to reindustrialize. They would have to, it's not the cards, like you've been saying. The United States, yeah, they can. They could sustain going back to like a World War II type scenario where they were supplying Europe with weapons. But who knows? Maybe that's what Trump's plan is. Maybe that's what their plan is they think they're going to like get into the MIC, and they're like, well, we'll supply Europe with all the weapons they need, and we'll make crap hand over fist, and it'll be like World War II all over again, post World War II, 1950s. I don't think it'll work this time.
This is impoverishing, though, because you're not producing, you're not enriching, you're producing weapons, you're producing destruction. So again, there's already this cost of living crisis. So I just want to go back to one thing you said about Trump, rubber stamp. My understanding is midterms are coming up soon. Again, from listening to the Duran, I've not been following it too much, but they're saying, well, what Trump should have done is focused on the domestic agenda. Either ended the war in Ukraine, which he can't do because he's just the president. He's not the God Emperor. He's just the president of the United States of America. He doesn't actually run the global American empire. That is the the Black Pope, these heads of these hereditary families, bankers, corporations, the deep state, the cathedral. Right? He's not the Black Pope of the cathedral. He's just the president of the USA. So they said, look, he should have not got so involved in Ukraine. Focused more on the domestic agenda. Focused on cost of living, focused on getting inflation under control, which is part of all this, focused on maybe deportations. Do you even have a wall yet? I don't know. There's so many domestic issues, and Trump is occupied with these things in Ukraine. And, he's sending off Witkoff and Kushner, and they're going meeting after meeting. And I read their 28-point plan. It was terrible. It was amateur. I could do something better. Give me 1 week, I got something better. Now, they wouldn't like my solution. My solution is, all right, Russia, you win. Like, we're going to... like, your position's very reasonable. You get those 4 or 5 territories, no further, right? We agree with what you... That's what I would say. It ends the war tomorrow. And then you've got leverage to do with investments and resources and the rest of Ukraine. There's room for negotiation there. But they don't want to do that. They're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. So they're saying that their prediction, this is the Duran, I believe, they're saying that Trump may lose the House or the Senate in the midterms. And then the Democrats in his first term were... retarded. I don't know if that's politically correct to say nowadays, but they impeached him for going after corruption in Ukraine and something else that who knows. This stupid lawfare. So they're gonna, like, Trump has been successful so far with his rubber stamp. That may not last come the midterms. He may lose the House or the Senate. I don't know, maybe not. Problems. It doesn't seem like he's running it so well. Many problems.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think the situation is it's just a cluster F from hell. And as Terrence Popp says, the Murphy's Law, and Murphy's a bitch. So we'll see what happens if their little plans are going to have any fruition. But I really think at the end of the day, it's MIC, and the bankers are trying to put the money together and fund some type of conflict. It is interesting that you did bring up about Russian selling gold. Oil is kind of stable. Like I said, it would be, but I said it wouldn't go over $60 a barrel in the fall, which let me double check what oil price is right now. I believe it's right around 60, 70 range. That's where I said it would stay right around this time of year, which isn't good because it's the travel season. It should be up right now, but it's not. Let me check oil prices. Crude prices right now. Oh, remember what I said? I said that it was going to be by fall it'd be right around under $60 a barrel. Where's it at right now, guys? I'm going to post it up here in a minute. 1 second.
Brent oil prices fall below $60 on Ukraine peace progress.
It's trading around $56 a barrel. The Brent crude's at 59. Do I know my stuff or do I know my stuff? You guys have been following me for several years now. I know what I'm doing. That's why I'm a professor of this, of economics and business studies, leadership. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. So that being said, yes, it's very possible that Russia is taking money from their treasury, from the gold, for the purpose of probably preparing for a long scale European conflict. It's very possible. I don't think
And
so.
there's
It's very possible. Murphy's
there's
Law's a
two
bitch.
kind
That's
of
all I'm going to say.
conflicts. There's two kind of conflicts. You've
Mm.
got the hot war, which no one wants to fight, no one's prepared to fight. Again, you said Russia doesn't have the capacity to march west into Europe.
They don't have the manpower. But they do have the
They
equipment. And
could.
they do
They
have
could have the
the technology.
manpower.
Right.
But they don't.
If they outsource.
There's not mass mobilization in Russia. You said Russia has unlimited resources. It's true, they have unlimited primary resources, but they have to extract it. They have to. That's primary sector. You have to manufacture that secondary sector, and then you need the people to actually go and train, and you need to mass mobilize or whatever. So they have technically unlimited resources available, but the capacity is not. They don't have unlimited, right? But they are outpacing the entirety of the West 4 times over. So there's the Cold War aspect. That's the angling, and this is really what's so important. Is we're coming to the close of Collapse 2025. Hashtag Collapse 2025. We're coming to the close. This is the midpoint of the decade. This first half of the decade has been wild. You tell someone the story of January 1st, 2020, or call it December 25th, which is because Taiwan raised the signal about coronavirus the end December 30th, 2019. That's why it's COVID-19. So you tell someone in 2000, 2005, 2010, from 2020 January 1st till 31st December 2025, and you'll say, I'm from the future. Here's everything that's going to happen. Bet all your money this way. They will say, you're crazy. There's no way. Like, you're not from the future. None of this is real life. It's a good book, though. You should be a fiction writer. One of the best pieces of fiction. What is the next 5 years going to look like? What is the next 15 years going to look like? I don't think we're getting war in Europe beyond the war that is currently in Ukraine, and that may fluctuate a bit here or there. I know Professor disagrees with me. I believe you say maybe there'll be a demilitarized zone, maybe a ceasefire. I say I don't think Russia will do that. I think they're going until there's a permanent solution.
Oh no, there will be offers for de-escalation, as there has been throughout the conflict. But the reality is like I said before on the podcast many times, in the Telegram channel, links in the description. Like I said, guys, subscribe, sign up for locals, help support us, and more or less, like I said, make some comments. Like comment, get the algorithm pushing this stuff out. But like I said, the situation is, I think that the war is going to end, or all wars will end when they run out of money. That's it. And I'm going to stick to that. So when there's an economic crisis of epic proportions, like a bubble like we're seeing, what happened in 99? What happened in 99? .com bubble, and what happened from that? What did the US government get involved in after
they then created the conditions that facilitated 2007, 2008.
Well, that's part of it, but what happened in 2001? There's a big event. There's a big event. There's a huge event in 2001 in September.
I was
don't know if you
old.
remember that.
Oh, 9/11, the birth of the New World Order.
Yes. And that may have been orchestrated. It may not have been. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but
I think it was orchestrated.
They set up the conditions for that to occur, and then there was a reaction. And of course, Halliburton became this big multi-billion, trillion-dollar organization that you don't ever hear of anymore.
It's now BlackRock, Blackstone. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. Who's the next organization to take its place? BlackRock and Blackstone. Where's BlackRock and Blackstone right now? Where are they overseas? Where are they heavily invested in? What countries?
Ukraine.
Not just Ukraine, but where else? You can look it up if you need to.
Where is BlackRock most? Are you going to say China?
No.
India?
No, not there.
There's a lot of venture capital going on in India. They're getting
BlackRock's
scammed.
predominantly right now in Africa, South America, Middle East, and Ukraine. Where are all these conflicts going on right now?
Sorry, I'm cutting out a bit.
It's okay. So, like I said, the BlackRock's right now main strategy, their business strategy is what I teach, by the way, at the university is business strategy. They're currently in Africa, South America, parts of the Middle East, Israel, and Ukraine. Where are the conflicts right now ongoing right now in the world? Where are the main conflicts, geopolitical issues right now going on? What countries? What regions?
All those regions.
Oh, there you go. So you can see, like I said, through business strategy operations from the corporations, from the corporate perspective, you can generally see where conflicts are going to arise or where the markets are going to go based off of what corporate business interests and strategies are on a global scale. That's generally how I'm able to predict a lot of these things, but more or less like just follow the money, and the money will point you in a direction of where these conflicts or where these issues or geopolitical issues are going to happen. It's all public record. You can go and see it all through it is what it is. If you know what you're looking for and you know what to study, you can kind of predict these things to the T when they're going to happen. These organizations don't mess around. They do their homework. They're generally the corporations are in these regions before the government or military or anybody else is. They're already doing trade deals.
These are decade plans. Yeah.
Yeah, 10-year plans. That's usually how these corporations work. Is they set up 10-year plans. They work heavily with the government and with certain alphabet agencies.
The government think tanks produce the papers 25 years in ahead. The academics. Mm-hmm. This is the magisterium of the cathedral. The magisterium are those that define orthodox thinking. The cathedral is the power structure.
Yeah.
So this is why on my Telegram channel I've made a post which is anti-capitalist anarcho-capitalism, because we do live under a capitalist system. If you use this adversarial definition of capitalism, which has been around for 100 years plus, which is to say that those moneyed interests, those transnational capitalists, those bankers, they're the ones really in control. They're doing all this for their own profit at your expense. I took the definition from Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi, the infamous father of the European Union. I said, if this is all going on because of capitalism, not free markets, not anarcho-capitalism, but this capitalist statist system, imperialism, I'm an anti-capitalist, anarcho-capitalist, ardent free marketeer. Halliburton, what were they? They were $1 trillion, whatever. What industry, what kind of business are they in? Oil, gas, hydrocarbons, the secondary market.
Energy.
Nowadays, it's the same thing. With BlackRock, they're all buying these things, but we've kind of progressed into a more financial capitalism where Halliburton's important, Burisma, right? Biden, Burisma. But what's more important is who actually owns that, BlackRock, all these people. So it's the financial capital, the asset managers that have become more predominant, more important, of central in the 21st century. And this is kind of an aspect of elite theory, of the managerial elite, of that separation between ownership, control, the managerial class. That's very important. Just as we're coming towards the end, there was a statement.
I just want to cover before you go into that. I just want to tell you, for our viewers, basically BlackRock's business model is centered on being a global asset manager and technology provider. Remember what I said World War III would be? World War III is not going to be a trench warfare type battlefield. It's not going to be it's going to be AI, robotic, and technology based. That's all. That's it. So who's going to be the main provider in this global conflict in World War III? BlackRock, like Halliburton was in the War on Terror. So who's going to profit the most from this organized or manufactured conflict or global scale conflict? It's going to probably be BlackRock. And they're already setting up right now. Why do you think silver, like I said before, is trading at 60 and they're projected to $80 an ounce?
I've heard rumors
technology.
I've heard rumors that UBS, Swiss bank, is having trouble with silver squeezing. Allegedly,
Mm,
silver spot is hitting
mhm,
$68 already in China. This is what I hear from a friend working in monies. So
mm. Yeah, because currently I think the silver spot price, I want to say it's close to. You could probably find it faster than me. I believe it's trading at $66 right now.
66.74
It
apparently
was
according to AP Max, and allegedly already
yes,
68 in China spot.
yes. They're usually ahead because their markets are ahead of the rest of the markets because they're the first. They're in the future, as
I think there's
Luke
also a bit
used to
more
say.
capital control, bigger,
Correct,
slightly
correct.
different regulations over there.
I mean, right now it's dipped, and they were predicting a dip on it. Not much. I mean, it dipped. It peaked at around 67. It took like a dollar or two dip, but it was predicted to do that. But it's going to quickly rise up. I think we're going to see $80 by the end of the year, possibly 100. It's very possible we see 100, but I don't know. We'll probably see 100 in 2026 in the first quarter. And this crash, I don't know. I was projecting a crash in the end of the fall, starting in October, November, and usually if we don't have a crash in the fall, um, they usually don't happen. But it's very possible it could happen in first quarter because we've had historical crashes in Februarys, like in the 2 months in the first quarter. We could have a rebound. I don't know. Right now, Trump and a lot of the bankers are propping the markets up for a reason. That's probably why crypto is being kind of messed with right now. I think crypto is being manipulated, heavily manipulated. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, gold and silver is not. Gold and silver is trading exactly where it should be.
Gold and silver was manipulated as well.
I mean,
They're all
it's
manipulated.
obviously they're all manipulated, but I think gold and silver is traded right around where it should be at this point because there's a huge demand for it. Um, I think it should be higher, but we're not going to see we're not going to see it hitting high numbers until the shit really does hit the fan, and then it'll probably take a quick dip, and then it'll just go to the moon. Gold will at least. Silver, who knows? Because it's an industrial metal, so it all depends on demand.
I mean, with Bitcoin, just let's go into some markets here. With Bitcoin,
Mm,
you can look at how Bitcoin market was in 2021. You see,
mm,
2021 it hit the peak of about 50,000, this key level of
mm.
significance, and then this is 50,000. The moneyed interests say that was our target. Now we
Yeah.
sell, and they dumped, and the price went down to about 30,000. That's the support from 30 to 50. They dump, buy it back
Mm,
at 30, and it goes up. It got to $69,420. You're like, what?
mm.
And then it dumped again, then it was, and this was a classic called a week-off distribution, which is a clear sign of what this is how markets work. This is like we talk about the AI bubble. Of course, AI is a bubble. This is how markets work. This is the market cycle, financial markets. Then Bitcoin, it was in it got the 50K target. It's now down. It found its support at about, I don't know, 15, 20,000. Great. There was a period of accumulation, and now it's gone up, and it went up to the highest it was, 100 and whatever thousand. And that's where they sell. All right, we've made our target. You sell. And they sold and it went down to whatever price. And then they've bought it again. It's gone up a bit. The question is, does it, all right, it went up and it didn't have the momentum to break past and go to 250,000. Conditions weren't there. That's not how it
Mm.
works. This, because they're making money along the way. They know how financial markets work like this.
Correct.
Um, so it's hovering around that key level of significance, 100,000. It's in a range. It's not breaking through it. It's not falling down too much. It's just trading the range. The question is, will it break to the downside? Or typically you see a 1, 2, 3. Right now it's a 1 down, 2 down. Now, is it going to break? What we've said for 4 years is I think that the markets are going to melt down. That break is going to be to the downside when the war in Ukraine concludes. Now, if you think the war in Ukraine is going to be over Christmas, which I do not, then I would sell your Bitcoin because the markets are going to crash. I don't know. I haven't done my market analysis lately. I don't anticipate that's going to happen. It's the trend is your friend until it's not. It's probably going to continue trading in the range. It's probably going to go back up. This is me, not financial advice. I've not really looked into it. I'm just looking at the price now. I'm not really in the market. But when is the crash going to occur? As we're saying with empiricism, with logic, with financial markets, with economics, with the rhetorics, with the cathedral, how they organize the empire and how the markets follow that or reflect that. Markets and prices are signals. They reflect reality or some kind of distorted sense of reality. So I don't think you're going to get that crash until the system is allowed to crash, and the system they can keep pumping the system so long as this war in Ukraine is going on. And because as soon as that system collapses, the war in Ukraine would collapse also. So it makes sense for them just to keep throwing the money, and they're benefiting. They don't care. We talked about gold and silver ratios. I have a source who I can't name into kind of central bank economics. They're buying gold. They've got Bitcoin. They're buying gold. Everyone's buying gold. This is where the central banks are investing. Again, that Russia is selling their gold is not a great sign for them, but it's not terrible because what's more important, the gold reserves you can get back at some point, or your men, your territory, your land, an existential war. Right? When it comes to gold and silver, everything you said is true about how silver is an industrial metal. But also when it comes to markets, there's something called the gold-silver ratio. And that just is one of those components of silver, one of its values. It's not a fixed ratio, but all markets are ratios. This is what we're looking at, exchange ratios. How much can I get? Can I get a house for how many tons of gold, kilos of gold, I guess? Can I get a piece of beef for how many euros? Everything's ratio. So the gold silver ratio is important. The Bitcoin gold ratio is probably important if you're a central bank. This is what we're looking at. So just to summarize on that is the markets, the economics, the financials. Now, just on the real events which kind of precede those almost, the Russian Security Council, Putin made a statement saying the military solution is the best solution. If we can win all our military objectives, great. At the same time, he is a real president. He talks with his allies. He talks with China, India, Brazil, Iran, all these people, the global south. And they say, supposedly, we would really like a negotiated settlement. If we can get something, if we can get an acceptable diplomatic solution, great. And again, I think that what Russians are asking for is not maximalist, is very reasonable. And if you give me control of the world, I'll solve it all pretty quick. That's my take of it all. It's gone to hell in a handbasket by design. It's a managed collapse. This is the thing. We live in such a fake and gay world. It's all fake and narratives and rhetoric, and you don't have the cards, you don't have the rations, you don't have the production. The reality is you're screwing this is what happened in World War I and II. They screwed the continent, they screwed up the entire world for their own ideological misconceptions. We're all still paying for it, and they're doing it again 100 years later. It's beyond frustrating and evil and sick and depressing, and just do the best you can.
Yeah, it's fake and gay. That's the reality. It's that's it. I mean, that's a good close. Thanks guys for joining us for the Liberty Report for this week, and like, subscribe, sign up for locals. I'm offering Rumble 3. Rumble? It should be scrolling right down here to join the group. But it's Rumble 3 gets you $3 off your first month. Membership makes it $1. I might actually do a freebie for the winner for Christmas. I might just give you like a free month just to test it out. I might do that next podcast. And that's about it. We're in crazy times. But thanks guys for watching. We had quite a good following today. Yeah, and I got another podcast coming up on the locals for locals members with Swen, and we're gonna be talking about Little Miss Piggy. Um, yeah, because I heard Little Miss Piggy likes to grift and cry and do weird stares and demonic type looks and stuff. So that's coming up on locals. The Grift Tour, the Art of the Grift is the next podcast. That's going to be on locals. It'll be on Rumble a little bit. We'll broadcast from Rumble and locals. But sign up for locals. Like I said, you'll get that exclusive content. I think it's too controversial for YouTube, to be honest. But it'll be on Rumble and locals, and then shortly it'll be privatized on Rumble. It'll just exclusively be for locals for paid members. But you guys can watch that for a little bit. And we're going to be doing some crazy, wild stuff here in the future. We get more hands-on and more content for the locals, guys. I don't know what else to say. This is a good podcast. We do our research. We know what's going on. Hashtag collapse 2025. You guys take care. Good night. Any last words, Mr. Gallicanocus, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome? Are you still there? Oh, somebody said hello.
Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Tune in next time. Subscribe. Bye.
Peace.
Peace.